Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called A Gentle Reminder, written by Ripple Hero.
You're kidding me. What is this?
I shouted, pointing at the spirit contained in the circle, just hovering above the ground, staring ahead, silent.
It is your ancestor, the one that answered the call for guidance,
the apprentice stammered. I looked back at the strange spirit. I had a distinct feeling that it was staring at me. Whatever this thing was, though, it couldn't be any ancestor of mine. It looked like some crazy rodent, bigger than any rodent I'd ever seen, though, like some kind of prehistoric draft of a squirrel. Something.
It's not even human, you lackwit, I shouted. You messed up the spell. That's impossible. It's one of the few foolproof spells in existence. Any errors is simply a result of failure upon casting. There are no other effects. This is the ancestor that answered the call.
This couldn't be happening right now. The war had been going so well. Our nation was wealthy, powerful, and respected. We were prepared for anything, except a string of bad luck. An ambassador dying in our capital, having choked on his meal, a forest fire damaging one of our largest trade routes, a sudden storm that wrecked our harbor and delayed our fleet. These things, small, minor, annoying things, had done just enough damage to give our enemies the opening they sought. They took advantage and sieged our cities. Dark times were looming ahead for my kingdom. I needed the guidance of King Sparse to help me through it, not some big furry primeval tree hopper. Descendant, look at me, the spirit said softly, hauntingly. I felt a shiver as I heard it. There's no way this thing knows how to speak, let alone our language. I turned slowly to look at the creature. Its eyes were focused on me intently. It is true that you are of my blood, millions of years down the line. I answered your call because only I am able to give you guidance. The words were so peaceful, beautiful. I was terrified, but also comforted. I felt the weight of epochs press down on me, and it felt like a hug. The apprentice looks on, awe and reverence plastered on their face. Look at what you have come from. Look at what you are now. This change did not happen quickly. It did not happen slowly. The change took so long, your language does not even have words to describe it. The creature, my ancestor, didn't move when it spoke. It made no gestures, no turns, and not even its mouth opened. It seemed able to stare at me without even moving its head, no matter where I moved. Its gaze remained locked on me with no movement. In between myself and you are trillions of variations, each a small success that carried on and was improved by the next generation. Over and over and over, from my time to yours. And the result looks nothing like where we'd started. We are links in an unbroken chain from the dawn of time to the present. Each of those links forged in the fires of the time by what was available. I stood dumbfounded. Such wisdom and eloquence from a creature that should have been barely sentient that long ago. But it wasn't speaking to me, not physically. This was a deeper conversation. Soul to soul. No wonder no one ever talks about their guidance. It's unnerving. Survival. The fight to survive is the fire that forges each link. You take what you have, what you are given, and you survive. Then, to thrive, you pass down your adaptations to the next, and they work to survive and thrive as well.
I don't understand. How does this help me with what I've come here for? This is an excellent motivational speech and all, but I'm not sure it counts as guidance, I say, stepping closer to the circle. I needed help with sieged cities, a possible loss in a war. I needed guidance on what to do as my kingdom lost its wealth. Then you miss the point. Survive, then thrive. Your time holds wonders that I could never have conceived in mine. Even just your form is outside of my ability to imagine. But with millions of years of adaptations behind you, you've begun to take survival for granted. You're too focused on thriving. Survive first. Remember, at our base, that is what we do. Survive, then thrive. Survive, then thrive. But we may not live to see the thrive. I didn't. Billions of your ancestors didn't either. But it's here now. You are thriving. Like none before you have thrived. The problems that trouble you only trouble your thriving, your excess. But you have started to mistake thriving for surviving. To you, they are the same thing. That is an error that you will not survive. And the chain will end at you. I felt the spirit was smiling at me. The excess always meant to pad survival. Let the excess burn away and feed your survival. You have more than enough to burn. And when the hard times pass and your excess is burned down to keep you alive, you will be in a better position than you were before. Then you will thrive more than you did before. I never thought of the excess around me as a survival tool, a resource. It was always just comfort. But I could never imagine living without it. Losing all of it was always the worst-case scenario in my mind. Losing it always meant death to me. I had gotten them confused. Burn off the excess, survive the hard times, then thrive better than before. No use being stingy with what I have. I should use it to survive and grow. Secure the future for those that come after me, I say to myself. Ha ha ha, descendant, you understand. That sounded an awful lot like pride. Thank you, ancestor, I do understand. Thank you. I give a bow of respect. You bring me joy, descendant. To see you thrive again will be the crowning glory of my existence. I will survive, and I will make you proud, too, I say with a laugh. Warmth radiates through the spirit. Go, young descendant. Go and forge your link strong. I will seek you out when it is finished and welcome you to the chain myself. Pride and sadness leak through the bond between souls. I will look forward to it, but not for a long time yet. I grin at the spirit. No, not for a very long time. The spirit laughs before fading away. Now I understood why this was the only ancestor to answer the call. I already had the knowledge of how to deal with the sieges, how to win wars. This knowledge was already passed down to me. What I was missing was a reminder of what was important, a reminder to remove my head from the clouds and my eyes off my wealth. Survive, then thrive. It's time. I will lead my people through the dark days ahead. We will survive, and we will become stronger for it. The wealth and excess of my time will feed the fire of our survival. Times will be tough. Letting go of our comforts and excess will not be easy, but it will be done. Just like our ancestors did in the past. Recent and distant. We will forge our links and survive. We will pass on our knowledge down to the next link in the chain. When it is all said and done,
I will meet my prehistoric ancestor with open arms, and we shall watch our descendants down the line thrive in ways that we could never comprehend together. End of story. Story number 2. The Void Stares Back, written by Battlelocks _ Subject 34387B is deceased. I paused for a moment and flexed my claws. Despite what certain members of the press said, I did not take relish in the death by experiments, even if they were somewhat flawed prior to their entry into the program. Cause of death is determined to be auto-asphyxiation exactly 40 cycles following the terminus of superlight jump, during which 34387B was exposed to void space conditions by a porthole measuring 13 units in radius and 0.496 units in thickness. As previously mentioned, a porthole is composed of a triple layer of UV-opaque dark glass laced with titanium and an iron mesh. Onset of mental instability was instantaneous upon drop to real space for 34387B, though the patient expressed a degree of lucidity for long enough to confirm that void space was in fact visible through the porthole. It is the opinion of this researcher that the dark glass iron combination was successful in delaying a complete degradation of the subject's speech and memory facilities, such that we were able to determine some degree of the nature of void space. However, we would not recommend the use of this particular arrangement for the future expanded program with voluntary subjects, as the probability of death remains 100%. I glanced up from my terminal. The subject was stretched out on a stone slab, its carapace dulled from the normal lively blue-green to a wan purplish white. The carapace had slumped in the hours since he died. It looked as though someone had laid a hardish, shiny blanket over a set of organs. In another few hours, decomposition would accelerate rapidly. I quickly sent the message for the mortician to remove the brain for study and dispose of the rest post-haste. Then I returned my gaze to the write-up. For the 39 cycles following the exposure, symptoms remained consistent with prior experiments. Subject experienced varying degrees of hallucination, expressions of multiple personalities, and complete lack of understanding of reality or consequences, particularly regarding pain tolerance and damage to self. See previous logs for further details. However, I paused again. The death was troubling to me, to be sure, but what preceded it was beyond what I had experienced before as part of the Void Space Research Corps. It took all of my professionalism from thousands of cycles of detached impersonal research to continue writing. However, at the beginning of the 40th cycle, the subject became increasingly disturbed and uncomfortable. Subject became violent with staff and researchers and was forcibly restrained for the sake of safety, both his and ours. Subject attempted constantly to break out of his restraints and succeeded on 2 occasions. At varying intervals, subject repeated the words, "They are coming," constantly increasing in volume and frequency until, towards the end of the 40th cycle, the subject was no longer pausing to breathe. Asphyxiation followed. The short time elapsed between exposure and death is a particular concern to this team, as is the cause of death. Previously, the quickest time between exposure and death of a subject was just under 100 cycles, more than double 34387B. Furthermore, while the death frequently is a result of mental degradation causing the subject harm or, more frequently, degrees of dementia, the process has never been quite so extreme nor violent. Further exploration should be undertaken immediately, though extremely carefully. This researcher recommends increasing— "Ma'am?" "What is it?" I asked, my voice tight, my carapace rattled from a shiver running down my back. "Ma'am, new report for you." "From Lab 28? "No, ma'am," the assistant replied. "Diplomatic Corps."
"Diplomatic Corps?"
I snorted and looked up. The assistant was holding out a tablet to me, its screen lit up with hundreds of tiny lines and notes.
"What is this?"
"New contact report," the assistant said. He shifted between his 4 feet nervously, and his head tracing a near-perfect circle in the air.
"And why is this relevant to us?"
I asked, frustration bubbling up.
I tried handing him the tablet back. Tell Diplo to stop sending us pointless reports. And as for you, for the love of all that is good, please filter what comes through me. You can read it, yes? You can tell when something has any implications for void space research, yes? The assistant gulped.
I did, ma'am.
Just read.
I sighed and looked at the report, skimming for the words of interest. My eyes widened. I looked up at the assistant. He nodded nervously. I read it again. I blinked.
Windows?
My voice was quiet. Oh, huge windows, the assistant said. These are pictures on the reports, ma'am. I saw it in person. They're here, on planet.
And they're
perfectly sane, perfectly lucid. As far as we can tell, their translators actually beat owls to the punch. But as far as they can tell, they're fully sentient species with independently developed void jump tech.
And they look into the void.
And they call it relaxing, the assistant confirmed. They sent a full report of their anatomy to Bio as part of the early negotiations. Bio confirms nothing unusual. Carbon-based, similar brain structure to most sentients. Soft skin rather than shell. But that's not unheard of. Nitrogen-rich atmosphere, but they respirate oxygen.
Tell Diplo to cut off contact with these humans immediately, I ordered. There's something horribly wrong here.
The assistant sighed. I don't know if they'll listen, but I'll try. What is it? What's going on? My eyes fell through the report I'd just written.
I am not quite sure, I admitted, but I have a bad feeling about this.
The words glowed on the screen below, and though I'd just written them, they were not mine. And now they screamed at me. They are coming. End of story. I would quickly like to thank our Tier 5 patrons, Dragzoon WRE, Quantum Wednesday, Ambrose Cattell, Lord Ashrakal, Bushmaster 177, Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, and Arcadian. Thank you very much.